Hello there friends and welcome! Today we have some very exciting news for Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. And it's all about the newest updates for the Gold Dragon Mythic Path. That will come with the upcoming patch 2.5, another very big patch that will accompany the launch of the Game of the Year edition. I actually had no idea they were planning on one for Wrath of the Righteous. But from what we have from Kingmaker, I assume it's gonna have way more changes than just Gold Dragon updates. Something very fun to look forward to, of course. But for today's video, it's all about the Gold Dragon changes. First, you'll have some new visuals and even spell effects and animations for the actual Gold Dragon form. Something very nice because, you know, by default, any spellcaster, or at least arcane casters, could just become a Gold Dragon through either the Dragon Kind line of spells or later the Shape Change spell. And since the form was exactly the same as you would get from the Mythic Path, well, there wasn't much of a point, because you know, you can get this way earlier to, let's say, a LICH arcane caster or an Angel Druid, for example. By that I mean chapter 3 instead of chapter 5 only. At the very least now, they have enhanced the Gold Dragon Path to not only have a unique form, but also access to new powerful abilities that you wouldn't get unless you specifically pick the Mythic Path. Besides that, they're also enhancing the dragon shape with a different visual for the corrupted Gold Dragon variant, because by default, even though it is a path all about redemption and being a goody two shoes and all that, you can still, let's say, fall from grace and become a corrupted dragon depending on the choices you pick. And now that you also have a new different model, plus a different variant of the portrait as well, which is very cool. Besides that, while this is not exactly a new change that will come with the Gold Dragon update, in one of the previous patches they did change all of the mythic banners, that is, they updated the visuals to look better, and also added some new weather effects for your capital city depending on your mythic path. Something very flavorful. But now let's get into the meat of the upcoming update, that is, the mechanical changes and buffs to the Gold Dragon Mythic Path. First, they'll have a new mythic spellbook, something very nice because by default, Gold Dragon only had a few unique abilities, not really spells, with even corrupted variants for the evil Gold Dragon. There's a sneak peek at a few spells here, but of course there's more later. Well, let's give it a go. First we have Dragon Might. As a swift action, you can increase all of your damage by 50% for 1 round. This is definitely very good, because of course it's a swift action, so you can still attack and cast spells in the same turn. I assume it's going to increase all of your damage by 50%, which is a tremendous benefit. Most importantly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any other class or mythic path in the game has access to an ability that increases all of your damage by a huge percentage amount. Usually you have flat damage sources. Well, I suppose with meta magic you can increase it through, let's say, Empower spell. Hopefully this works for everything, including attacks and the Gold Dragon unique breath. We also get a new summon ability, Summon Dragon. This lets you summon either a lot of medium silver dragons if good aligned, or black dragons if corrupted. Of course, it's going to depend on the stats of the summons, because in Wrath of the Righteous, summons really need a lot of help. That is, a lot of buffs to become really good, especially if you're playing on the higher difficulty modes. As a matter of fact, I do hope before they are finished with the game, we get a new summon focus class. A good one, that is. The only downside of dragon summons is that I imagine they're going to be very big and blocky, so for tight areas like corridors, they won't be of much use. Next we have 1000 Bites. As a swift action while under dragon form shape, you'll get 3 additional attacks for 1 whole minute, and this even stacks with bonus attacks from haste and similar effects. Quite busted of course, because at the point you finally change into a Gold Dragon, you'll have loads of extra attacks, especially because by default, under the Gold Dragon shape you have what, 5 or 6 attacks? So that is a lot of extra melee attacks for your Gold Dragon. You can definitely have higher than 10 per turn. Then we also have Dragon Wrath, which from what's shown here, appears to be probably the new ultimate spell in the game, besides Angel's Storm of Justice. You blast your enemies with rays of focused dragon energy. You can fire 1 ray for every 6 caster levels for a maximum of 3, Each ray requires a ranged touch attack to hit, which is great because it can critical for higher damage, and deals 1d6 points of damage per caster level, I assume uncapped. And nowadays there's a lot of gear that increases your caster level above the maximum. Basically, it appears to be Hellfire Ray, which is already the strongest single target spell in the game, but as area of effect, so every enemy within a 25-foot radius, which is ridiculous. Not to mention the fact it hits harder than Hellfire Ray as well, because Hellfire Ray has a cap of 15d6, this is uncapped, so it's essentially Hellfire Ray, which is already godly, but even better, quite OP to be fair, if it really works like this. Because if you really fire 3 rays on every single enemy, well, it's probably going to be the strongest new damage spell in the game. Besides that, you'll also get new mythic features and abilities, also a very welcome change because by default, the Gold Dragon unique bonuses weren't really that amazing for how late you get the path anyways. And there's 10 new mythic features just like 10 new spells. First, Annihilating Breath. Leaving enemies struck by your breath will take additional negative energy damage equal to your breath damage, quite good. By default, breath abilities are kinda in a tough spot because enemies in Wrath have very high hit points. For spells, as always, you have something like meta magic, the same is not true for actual abilities. After that we have Mind Clearing Breath, which lets your breath dispels all mind-affecting effects applied by enemies. Then Empowered Breath, your breath damage increases by a number of damage dice equal to your mythic rank, also amazing, and another very welcome change for the same reason I've just explained when talking about Annihilating Breath, and I imagine they stack. Then Rejuvenating Breath, your breath can heal allies in the area. Not really that good because at this point you could just spam the Mass Heal spell. We'll also get a new domain and blessing to support early game affiliation with the Gold Dragon Mythic Path. And now we'll have the Scaly Kind domain and blessing. First, let's cover it as a domain for clerics. You'll have Venomous Stare. As a standard action, you can activate a gaze attack against enemies within a 30-foot radius, with DC based on 10 plus half cleric level and wisdom modifier, or take damage equal to 1d6 points plus 1 for every 2 cleric levels. The sparks is kinda okay at most, but most importantly they'll also become fascinated for 1 round. If it works as described and the gaze actually hits all enemies in a 30-foot radius, that is quite amazing for a level 1 domain ability. Especially because you can use it a number of times per rest equal to 3 plus your wisdom modifier, so even early you could already have 6 uses of this, that is at level 1. For a mass crowd control power, once again from level 1, that is quite good. As fascinated enemies can't really do anything. Most importantly at level 4, just like with Animal Domain, you'll get 1 animal companion, but it is limited to the reptile companion, so the lizard or the dinosaur raptor. I'll be blunt, they aren't as good as, let's say, the classic wolf or everyone's best friend, the dog, but they are still decent, like any other pet. Now what about the Scaly Kind domain spells? They are mostly good, especially Animal Growth, which is one of the best pet buffs. Then Creeping Doom, which is still the best summon in the game when combined with other abilities and spells like Paladin's Mark of Justice. Magic Fang, but most importantly Greater Magic Fang, which by default is only Druid or Hunter exclusive, and this is a must-have for buffing any pet or shapeshifter character like a Gold Dragon, because it does free you from having to use the Talisman slot as a way of enhancing your natural attacks. And lastly, Shape Change, also the best shape-changing spell in the game with access to all of the best forms that aren't Mythic Path exclusive. Now what about Scaly Kind as a blessing, so for a WARPRIEST? This variant is kinda poor to be fair compared to other ones. As a standard action we can enhance allies' natural armor as an enhancement bonus, and from level 10 onwards you can gain 1 bite attack for 1 minute, also very poor. Yeah, just go with the domain variant instead. Besides that, we also have some improvements and rebalances. First, you'll get access to some, well, what I assume is unique Gold Dragon features earlier. Great. Although it's still kinda sad the path can only be acquired at chapter 5. Some abilities and spells will be automatically empowered and maximized at mythic level 10. This could be very good if Not for the fact Mythic level 10 still comes extremely late in the game. It's actually one of my main pet peeves with it, because by default, you can only get Mythic level 10, I'm not even exaggerating, but 5 minutes before the final boss. So it's kind of wasteful unless they are planning on changing it with the patch 2.5, something that would be very welcome. Because what's the point of having this if all that's left to fight is the final boss, if you know what I mean. Also the ability to alternate between damage types, nice, and increasing some of the damage and bonus numbers. Of course, without actually knowing what these changes do, we can only guess about them, but I imagine, for example, you'll definitely have higher breath damage for the Gold Dragon. Speaking about that, you'll also have reduced or even remove cooldown at higher levels for the Gold Dragon Breath. We'll also have 2 new dragon deities to support Gold Dragon players even from the start. Apsu, which is the main good aligned deity, and Dahak, the main evil one. Apparently, the new religions will also have a lot of reactivity across the entire game, some even exclusive to Gold Dragon. Lastly, the corrupted Gold Dragon alignment will be chaotic evil, and of course we have the cool new portrait. Lastly, some updates as to what's coming next. The game will continue to receive additional bug fixing updates, also probably some new quality of life improvements, which is very nice. It doesn't seem like we'll get new gameplay content or story content after this update, that is patch 2.5 with the Game of the Year edition. So hopefully we also get some new classes or at least archetypes for the next patch, since you probably won't get more afterwards. Well, alright friends, so this was it for our updated Gold Dragon changes and improvements guide. If you found this video useful, as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and also consider becoming a channel member if you can. Thank you for watching, and see you next time, friends.